From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, one of your lone homegrown stars has entered the portal. Patrick Payton puts his name into the portal. What's that mean for Florida State? Priorities, or rather priority pieces. Has Florida State hit on their first choice at all the important things this offseason so far? Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Vitamins, nutrients, energy. Sip the juice, everybody. VitaminEnergy.com. Try out all the different varieties in the variety pack, or maybe by now you figured out what you like best. Share it with somebody. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. Noles behind this whole operation, helping us out, supporting us. Support some Noles. Support the program. Support Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. You already are. I'm sorry, you're here. You're listening. Hit the thumbs up, though, maybe. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Maybe tell a friend, Corey, that, hey, I read a Corey Clark column earlier this month, and it was awesome. Spread the word. Spread the good cheer of the holiday season. Let people know about Warchant.com. It'll cheer them up. I'm cheered up because I just heard Corey Clark somewhat audibly agree with something I said, or at least emphasize something. So that's always a good thing. How are you, Corey Clark?
I'm good, and I would say if you read a Corey Clark column at all this month, this year, in your lifetime, a good chance it was awesome. So just throwing that out there. Go, hey, and if you don't take my word for it, go subscribe and see for yourself.
Our guy don't miss.
I would say, Aslan, and I don't think I'm being this isn't I'm not being humble, obviously, but this I don't need to be modest. I would say I'm the best writer for anyone that has a daily podcast.
Oh, for sure. You're one seed. You're one seed.
On the Florida State beat, I'm saying. Maybe in life, but certainly on the Florida State beat, I would say I'm the best writer that has the best daily podcast host that's also a writer. I'm the best writer of that group, which I think I might be the only one. But still, I'm one of one. I'm one of one. I'm a unicorn, so you guys should appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't want to brag too hard about it. It's unbecoming or whatever, but I can't think of any college beat. I mean, I don't even read a lot of professional columnists anymore when it comes to pro, but like you and Ira, the 1-2 punch that we have with Ira and Corey is second to none in all of athletics, man, especially in college. Listen, I'm hopping on some of these other sites and trying to read what they're saying about their teams and what they're doing in the portal, and I'm like, okay, that's very paint by numbers writing, typing. We don't get that at Warchant.com. You get the best because you get Corey Clark, you get Ira Schofel, you get Matt Lacerra, Michael Langston, Tom Lang, Jeff Cameron, Gene Williams. And then we will throw myself in there at no extra charge, everybody. By the way, shout out. I was at the doctor's office the other day, Corey, and the technician, before we began this bit of my visit to the doctor's office, was like, "Are you you're Aslan?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Do you mind if I take a photo with you?" I'm like, "Sure, but can we do this one thing first?" Like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." And they're like, "My friend is a huge fan. She'll go crazy if she says I took a photo with you." So we got women listeners. We're growing, Corey. Our demographic continues to be part of what we call it, Wake Up Warchant Rising Podcast.
Yeah, I assume most of our listeners are now women. So let's keep it going, ladies. Let's keep it going.
All right, let's talk football. Let's talk Florida State football and the transfer portal. I think we saw this one coming from, I don't know, maybe a mile away or not, but Patrick Payton on Wednesday apparently has every intention of entering the transfer portal. Has he actually entered the portal as we sit here and talk, Corey? Or we just got the intends to transfer tweet out there in the World Report?
I mean, I don't think it's official yet, but we're also recording this pretty early. So what does that even mean, Aslan?
Touche.
But he
announced it. I'm sorry. I should have read the article that our guy Ira Schofel typed up. He's actually gone ahead and announced it. So,
all right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he is entering the portal. Not a surprise, as Aslan was saying. And look, man, I'll try to be delicate here. In my opinion, if you get the Patrick Payton you had this past season, that's not a big loss. In fact, it might be, and I've used this phrase a lot, it might be a bit of addition by subtraction, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. I'll own it if I am. He might go to somewhere and have 12 sacks. I did not like the way he played this year. I also did not like the way he competed at times. And I think maybe he became, fairly or unfairly, I think he became kind of symbolic of the whole season. Because there were images of him where it just didn't seem like he was trying real hard. He would rush the passer and kind of just, the ball would be snapped and he'd kind of just stand straight up and stay at the line of scrimmage. And that happened way too much for my liking. Talented kid. When they were good, he was good. But when he was not the kind of guy that kind of rallied the troops, in my opinion. But I'm seeing it from 100 yards away. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not on the sidelines during the games. But I don't know if that's the Patrick Payton that is going to be the rest. That's his college football career, is what we saw in 2024. It's not a big loss. It's not sour grapes. I think most people listening to this would agree with me. That's not a big loss if that's the kind of production and effort you were going to get on a daily basis in 2025.
Looking here on PFF, of football players on the Florida State team this past season, defensively that played 200 or more snaps, only 3 players graded lower than Patrick Payton. 14 graded higher than Payton that played in 200 or more snaps this season.
Wow. Who graded lower?
Quindarius Jones, Cam Riley, DJ Lundy.
Okay. All right. Not a surprise. This is not sour grapes. In fact, we talked about it on headlines on Tuesday. I asked Ira and Jeff, what would you even say if you're Terrence Knighton and Tony White and you're meeting with Patrick Payton? Are you even asking him to stay? That's how far down the priority list I think Patrick Payton had become. It wasn't. I don't. And both Ira and Jeff said the same thing. It's man, I would have him try to convince me why we should keep him, not beg him to stay.
Yeah, I would think it's somewhere in the middle, right?
Probably.
I would think,
probably.
Where are you at right now, young man? Can you, where's your head at? Can you give us what you gave this program? Because listen, he fell off. I mean, we're not even going to count 21 as a redshirt freshman, but 22 when he was the newcomer of the year, he graded out at 70.8, had 20 pressures on 173 pass rush snaps. Last season in 23, he graded out at 71.2 and had 44 pressures on 342 snaps. This past season, he graded out below 60, which again, 60 is show up, put your cleats on and your pads and get on the field and just don't mess anything up and you'll get a 60. He graded out 59.2. And he went from 44 pressures to 26 and only in 60 less pass rush attempts. So, yeah, I mean, his production fell off. But I would think, you get a sense for where he's at. But then it took too long for me, I would think, for him to enter the portal for this to have been a total push out. This definitely strikes me as being a mutual thing. I'm sure they were fine with him leaving. I also think he probably might not have his heart in it any longer here. Maybe he needs a new change of scenery.
It also might have something to do with the timing of the Williams kid committing, and that's an edge rusher.
Yeah,
and he's thinking, okay, well that's going to be taking my snaps. Maybe they have a budget for defensive ends, and they spent the majority of the budget, maybe what Patrick Payton was asking for, on this kid from Nebraska, and he's like, okay, well that's my cue, because I don't know that it's a coincidence that he entered the next day. He entered, I don't know, man, in 30 minutes before Florida State officially announced Williams is a signee. So I think there's some correlation there. But the guy was a part of an ACC championship. He had 10 PBUs in 2023. He had some good moments for this program and was part of the resurgence in 22 and 23. Again, part of that might have it helped that Jared Verse was on the other side, drawing some attention. But still, productive guy. Was a part of a lot of wins.
You brought him to Charlotte with you as one of your quasi-team captains at ACC kickoff.
And he was not good this year. Not good at all. Didn't live up to the hype. Didn't get any better. Got worse, as Aslan just pointed out. Also don't know what kind of locker room presence he was. But I just think the more, as Aslan was talking about with Darrell Jackson a couple days ago when he stayed, Patrick Payton was one of the guys that I was like, yeah, that's not a loss if he leaves. Jackson would have been a loss. Number one, Jackson produced. Jackson played well. He was your second best player on defense, according to PFF. Meanwhile, Patrick Payton was your third to last player on defense. So it wasn't. But also, I think, I don't know, man. I'm not going to even go down that path. I just think it's probably best for all parties involved that Patrick Payton is no longer a part of the Florida State football team. And I love what, maybe there's a message here. I'm probably reading too much into it. But can you read the Norvell quote about James Williams? Because as most of you probably know, they won't talk about these guys until they've signed their NLIs. Sorry. No, what are they called now? Just grant and aids. Yeah,
NLIs. GIAs.
Yeah. But they won't officially talk about these guys until they've done that. Well, James Williams did that, I guess, on Wednesday morning. Yeah. So can you read Norvell's quote about him?
I know where you're going with this. I'm going to defend you, Patrick, so don't tune out the podcast yet, Peyton. I'm going to help out here. I'm excited to have James join our program. Mike Norvell says he brings toughness and plays with a relentless edge. James
that's it. Stop. Do you think – am I just reading too much into that?
Well, stop putting him on the field then. Why do they keep putting him on the field? Why do they keep putting Patrick Payton on the field if he didn't play with any effort and sucked?
Hey, buddy, but that says a lot about the backups. It's a good point. The guy that put him on the field is no longer here. I will say that.
Yeah, and his specific positional coach has been reassigned. To a different position.
But yeah, I think I read something into that, but I could be just that's probably me just looking too much into it just to be stupid. But I thought that was very very interesting. That's how he led. He talks about toughness and relentless energy. And that's not just a Patrick Payton gripe. That's a gripe really about that entire defense.
Yes.
And they need an infusion of that. And that is why I'm excited about that kid. I'm also excited that he did what he did in like 180 snaps. He had as many pressures in 180 snaps as Patrick Payton had in 600 snaps or 500 snaps, whatever it was. So that's really, really encouraging that guy impacts the quarterback so relentlessly. You need more of that. You need more of that on your roster, and I'm excited about that guy. Patrick Payton, don't know where he'll land. I hope he ends up having a fine finish to his career, and I hope he remembers his years in Tallahassee fondly because he was a part of some really good ones.
Yeah. Just to clarify real quick, 143 pass rush snaps for James Williams, 28 pressures.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. Payton had 280. And had 26. So, he had double the amount of pass rush snaps Patrick Payton only had two less actual pressures.
Yeah, that's what this guy was twice. I guess that's how math works. It could be, maybe I'm not doing the exponentially right. But he had twice as many pressures, or he had more pressures than half the snaps.
There you go.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's
crazy. But again, a lot of the times, especially it seemed like at the end of the year, Patrick Payton was just standing up. The ball would be snapped, and it was not a mad dog rush coming from the outside, which I thought you'd see more of that this year. That was what we were hoping for. But again, he is not the reason Florida State was 2-10. He is a small.
Well, he is the reason they were 2-10. They'd be 1-11 without him. They probably wouldn't have beat Cal.
I know. I think that was a Marvin Jones Jr. game, buddy. I think MJJ came correct that game, and our man Eddie Joseph.
Payne had three pressures. Maybe it was it was a Josh Farmer game, I think. Actually, I apologize, Josh. I take back what I said good about you too, Patrick. Yeah, I think that was like a Josh Farmer game.
Okay,
but yeah,
either way,
I get what you're saying. It boggles my mind that, and I get what you're saying because people would constantly post that. The one or two clips from, seemingly every game where, offense takes a snap, Payton takes one step forward and then kind of stops and starts, kind of looking around the tackle, like what's going on in the backfield here. And it's like, well, why? I just feel like, he's shown the ability to get upfield and pressure the quarterback. I feel like, it's the crazy thing where surely they didn't tell him not to do anything. But surely they also didn't tell him, get your rear end up the field and get to the quarterback, because we know that he would probably play a little bit better than that. But nonetheless, just last thing on that, Corey, I will say, again, it's not a very heralded amount of talent that is left through the portal so far. But I feel like that might have the highest quotient. Like Patrick Payton probably has the greatest probability of potentially going somewhere and having a very good 2025, I think. Or do you think Destin Hill or maybe even Luke Kromenhoek is in the catbird seat for that designation and distinction?
Yeah, it's a good question. I definitely will. Payton is the only one for sure that's left that I think is a starter wherever he lands.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't think he's going to go to Georgia or Ohio State. He's going to go, maybe he stays in state, maybe goes to Miami. I think he's probably a penciled-in starter. I don't think you could say that about anybody that's left so far. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Payton, and he's got, when On3 tweeted out that he was leaving, and they tweeted out his career stats, you're like, yeah, man, he's done some work in college.
Yeah, man.
Those aren't bad, but then it's like, man, okay, but what? How many of those stats were the last 12 games? Yeah. And it wasn't many. Yeah. You know what, though? I think he did play. He played in the Orange Bowl, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't think he played well, obviously. Who did? But he played, so I'll always appreciate him for that. He did show up and play that game.
42 snaps, 4 pressures.
Okay, yeah. Carson Beck remembers that name.
Yeah, man. He saw 11.
Yeah.
Only thing I have to worry about is 11, and don't throw it at 8. Don't throw it at 8. Watch out for 11.
Yep, that was it. That was the game. That was the scouting report.
Otherwise, go have some fun out there and let it rip. You have some fun out there and let it rip when you go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Throw them darts. Aim for the bullseye. Go for the triple on the 20. Start off when you play your cricket game. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Later today, bingo going down, 7 p.m., 4 rounds, $250 in cash up for grabs in each single round. And Friday, the 12-team college football playoff begins. What is it, the Battle of the Hoosier State? Indiana versus Notre Dame? That starts us off, Corey. So
yeah, that's right.
You can catch that one. And do we have a triple header on Saturday?
That's right. Yeah, that's yeah, and an NFL game in the mix.
And come on, Roger Goodell. I mean, you mentioned
ridiculous.
This the other day.
Isn't that ridiculous?
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
that you get a minor leagues for free, and you still urinate all over it. The only time they've ever had 3 playoff games in a day in college football history, and my man has to have just a random game, and it's with the Chiefs, who play again on Wednesday. It was so unnecessary to have a game on Saturday, but Roger Goodell just straight middle fingers to his minor league system.
You know who doesn't? You know who doesn't do a middle finger to their constituents? Our guy
Bill Hayes. Bill Hayes at Corner Pocket. That's right.
That's right. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Corey, question here about quarterbacks. So, you corrected me well, which you usually do. By the way, it's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. When I mentioned that Auburn got kind of emboldened and went and grabbed 2 very good quarterbacks, but then you're like, hey, easy with the very good. 2 guys that were starting quarterbacks for part of the 2024 season, and Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels.
Yeah, I think that's right. Ashton Daniels, yeah.
From Stanford. And, some people...
By way of Buford, Georgia, by the way.
Yeah.
He was teammates with K.J. Bolden.
That's right. And then people were like, okay, you're going to get Castellanos, I get it, but that's it? And kind of goes to another point I want to bring in here with Brennan Marion now apparently either is or is the lead candidate to take the head coaching job at Sacramento State. So we heard Mike say that, when they were going to go through this coaching sort of search, they're going to respect it. There might be guys that are involved in bowl games, maybe the playoff. So when you connect those dots, there are some people that fell into that orbit. Marion was one of those guys because he played in a conference championship game. The coordinator from SMU is a guy that had a history with Mike, and SMU obviously played in their conference championship game. They're going to be in the playoff. Those 2 guys are not the coaches now here at Florida State. So he kind of had to maybe scramble and get some other options here. But, Castellanos is it seems like. I can't imagine at this point they get another transfer portal quarterback. I guess we're not talking maybe enough about Brock and Trevor Jackson and thinking about them, but do you think right now the confidence in which Mike attacked this coaching search, it maybe didn't work out as quickly or maybe first case scenario, but if the quarterback, there's no doubt though, right? Like this is all they really wanted because Caden Salter was a guy they was mentioned. He's signed with Colorado. So I guess this is all just to underscore, like everyone needs to kind of get on board, for lack of a better term. And I'm not trying to tell you folks what to do with your life, but if you had any grumblings about Castellanos, it is becoming more apparent as other guys go, wherever else. John Mateer from Washington State, Miami wants him badly. Sounds like Oklahoma's going to get him. At least Florida State identified the quarterback they want, and they went and got him, and maybe that's the most important thing out of this entire offseason so far.
Well, no, I would still say the coordinators, especially Tony White. I mean, that's a great get. I think that was 1A. That was if you could have told Norvell before November, here are your list of defensive coordinators. I can't imagine there was too many guys ahead of Tony White. Like that's as appealing as you can get. And Malzahn probably didn't even think that was a possibility. But if he'd have known Malzahn was a possibility, that would have been high at the list too. Because again, while his team sucked record-wise in 2024, his offense didn't, and his offense never does. And that's all you want him to do is move the football. So I still think the coordinators, because of the track record, man, they don't produce. Malzahn just doesn't have awful offenses. He doesn't even have average offenses, almost ever. They're always good, always. No matter who the personnel is, no matter the location, no matter the coaches that are with him. His offense always plays and always scores and gets yards. So I still think, weirdly, I think Castellanos was the third most important part of the offseason. I still think the coordinators were the most important. But Castellanos is kind of hand in hand with Malzahn, right? Like, if it was any other coordinator, I'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this – you really Castellanos out of the gate? You didn't give any time – you didn't wait around to see who was out there? You could have gone and gotten the Washington State kid. But no, with this offense, the fact that Malzahn's coached them, they both recruited him. Norvell's had to play him twice. Like it seems like a perfect – like they know what they want. And it feels like, right? It feels like he was their first choice. Oh,
Castellanos, absolutely. I mean, they brought him in. I wonder how much of it, I guess we'll never really know this. I wonder if it was, all right, pitch me, Brennan. Like, what do you want? What do you want here at Florida State? Like, what's the quarterback you want to bring? And he's like, well, actually, I like the kid from New Mexico, Mike. I like him. Or like, I like the kid from Washington State. And then Mike talks to Gus and is like, who do you think for quarterback? And before Gus can finish saying Thomas, Mike Norvell completes a sentence, because I feel like there couldn't have been any other coordinator that was on the same page. I think this is as much of a Mike Norvell acquisition as it is a Gus Malzahn one, which is what makes this whole thing work. And it should make you feel cautiously optimistic right now.
I also don't know. I think you're framing it that Marion might have been Norvell's first choice, and I don't know that that's true. I'm not saying it's untrue.
I mean, the reporting out there, Corey, for so long was,
But wasn't that Malzahn wasn't even like a thought the first week or so,
Malzahn
right?
was on the hot boards. Malzahn was like a note towards the bottom of things. Like, hey, also another name to keep an eye on.
But it was like that, and he started gaining steam. But immediately your first thought is, okay, let's look at the best offenses in the country. Well, there's one. What's his story? Oh, he played for Norvell 20 or 15 years ago. He's an up-and-comer. He's got a cool backstory. This would be a good fit. But I think,
Am I taking Mike Norvell too literally again when he talks about guys were pursuing bowl games, playoff games? When UCF wasn't going to be in a bowl game. When he mentioned that, they certainly were going to be in the playoff. Either was Nebraska. So one of those coordinators, I feel like.
And he also said some might be in the conference championship. Yeah, I think there's a chance that he was talking with Marion and Malzahn. I assume he probably didn't think Malzahn would come.
Yeah.
I mean, he resigned, so he forfeited some money that he was owed, and he went from being a head coach in the Big 12 to a coordinator. And it's not like Malzahn was going to get fired. He'd have been on the hot seat. But he wasn't going to be fired, hot seat going into next year. So I don't know how realistic Norvell thought that was. And it's like, okay, and I'm not saying Marion wasn't his first choice. I can't imagine, though, Brennan Marion turned down the opportunity to be the OC at Florida State. And, I mean, look, man, you can say what you want. Kenny Dillingham was the OC here in 2021. He is now coaching as a head coach in the playoff. Like, this is a launching point if you're any good at all, to get to the stratosphere of college football, if you're any good at all. So I know they just went 2-10, so it doesn't seem that appealing. But I can't imagine Brennan Marion was like, all right, do I want to be the OC at Florida State, or would I rather be the head coach at Sacramento State? Is that even an op? And I know there's supposedly some NIL money that Sac State's going to try to get if they can get into the Pac-12 and blah, blah, blah. That is – being the OC at Florida State is number one, it enriches your bank account tremendously. But it also is a career maker. Sacramento State, I don't. That's where careers go to die. So I also think maybe Brennan Marion thought he might be the UNLV head coach.
I think it was either that or it was one of those things where maybe Mike was, all right, I'll let you coach that conference championship game, but I can't let you do the playoff, man. And I know that's going to break your heart, but I just can't. I can't have you. I got to get this thing running. And maybe Marion was like, I can't do that, man. Like I can't walk away in the middle of a playoff potential run.
It's crazy though, right? Though, because as much as I like Marion's story, and there's a chance he could be awesome and the next great coach. I mean, that is a much riskier take than Gus Malzahn. Brennan Marion's coached high-level football for
sure.
1 year as a wide receivers coach at Texas. Yeah. UNLV, obviously, it's a good team this year and had a good offense, but, man, that is a risky proposition with no connections to the South. You bring in a guy from the UNLV offensive coordinator to be your offensive coordinator, or you go get a guy that's been doing it in the SEC in the Big 12 for 15 years. Like that is a no at a high rate, at a good rate. This is not like the equivalent of Kevin Steele, who's had a couple good years here and there, but has had some awful defenses too. That's not even who I'm thinking of. There's another DC.
Yeah, why is Kevin Steele catching strays on this program?
There's the SEC. Every time you're watching a game, you're like, wait, that guy's their defensive coordinator.
John Chavis, the chief.
There you go. Guys like that, man. Gene Chizik. You're like, what? He's had one good year in the last 10. Yeah. Malzahn's always got a good offense, so I think, and he's got great connections in the South. So I don't know that it was like Marion or Marion's my first choice and then Malzahn's the second. I think maybe when Marion strung him along a little, if that was happening at all, he's like, well, let me go back to Gus and see how serious he really is. Right. But I think you came out ahead, honestly, as far as a guarantee.
Yes.
As far as a guarantee of what 2025 will be, have no idea about the win total. I can tell you this. I promise you this. They are going to average 14 more points a game, which, by the way, at least 14 more points a game, which, by the way, gets them to about 29, which is would be about 70th in the country. So I'm not predicting great success, but they will double their scoring total this year, and they will maybe, I don't know, they average 270 yards a game. They'll get to about 400 at least. They will take wild leaps in production and scoring. I am convinced of that because of Gus Malzahn. I would not be able to say the same thing with Brennan Marion.
Never met the guy. I don't know. He won't know me from Adam. I could know him from Adam, but I feel bad for Brennan Marion. Like
he kind of got squeezed out.
My goodness. Yeah. A month ago, he's probably telling his fiancée wife, like, babe, like Florida State, we've made it. And then it's.
Or I'm about to be the head coach at UNLV.
Yeah, like B.O.'s gone. Barry Odom, that is, everybody. It's my time to shine. And my alma mater, Tulsa's open. Maybe I even get Tulsa. Babe, we're not saying Vegas, I'm going home. We're going to Tulsa. This is going to be awesome. And then now it's Sacramento State.
So Dan Mullen's not keeping him. Is that official? Do we know that for sure?
It's, Dan.
Why didn't Barry Odom take him?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
That's what I'm thinking. I think he didn't want to go with Barry Odom because he probably thought he was. Why wouldn't you? You wouldn't stay at UNLV when you could go coach in the. Where's Odom at Missouri? Where's Odom? Purdue
now, and they hired USC's offensive line coach to be their OC.
Oh, okay.
In Purdue.
Right. We've talked way too much about Brennan Marion, but yeah, I think that's when you look at this offseason. I know it was a productive day. They got the Vanderbilt offensive lineman on Tuesday night as well.
Gunnar Hansen, yes.
Which numbers aren't great if you look at Pro Football Focus solely. Did not grade out that highly, but I like a guy, Aslan, that has started. I think he started like 35 games in the SEC.
I think he's been starting the last 3 seasons at Vanderbilt. He's been starting like left tackle, I think right tackle, even some guard. So yeah, he's not a star. He's probably not an NFL draft pick, but man, that solidifies some stuff. That gives you a capable body. Not a star, maybe not even a starter, depending on how you what's on this roster in another week or two. But that is a nice person to have in the room with you. I mean, that guy's been through some wars. Now, it's funny when you look at his grades, and again, I don't take PFF nearly as seriously as Aslan, but when you look at his grades for the year, you're the one talking about Gerald Jackson and pass rush rate and everything.
I was looking at his pass. I believe those numbers. It's the grading points that I just don't understand, like the 38.6 or the 69.6.
There's 5 or 6 screenshots in our group chat, ladies and gentlemen, between Corey, myself, Ira, a couple other folks, where we will screenshot someone's grades, and it'll be 60, 65, 55, 50, 50, 50, and then their overall grade will be 71.
Yeah.
And it's like, how?
How's that happen? How's that math work?
Yeah.
Somebody explain it. Yeah. Mastromanno was like 38th in the country in their punting grades. It's like, what at one point in the season, like, what are y'all basing this on? What could you be basing this on? Looks? It can't be production. It doesn't make any sense. But so his grades during the 2024 season, he had some nice ones. I think he was pretty good against Alabama, actually. But his South Carolina grade, doctor. That kid, the Kennard kid, must have just
Kyle Kennard, yeah,
destroyed him. But South Carolina did that to everybody. And again, it kind of warmed me up a little bit. It's like, okay, yes, he got destroyed by the South Carolina defense. Everybody did this year. That was a wrecking ball of a defensive line. But he's seen it. He's gone up against it. Yep. He's gone up against Alabama. Like, you're getting a guy that started in the SEC, not a guy that played a little bit in the SEC like, say, Cam Riley, or a guy that didn't play really at all like Sean Murphy, or another guy
Terrence Ferguson.
Terrence Ferguson. You are getting a guy that started for 3 years. Started for 3 years around not-so-good players. So really took some lumps. And then, actually played pretty well this season, all things considered. And I just like that. I like adding that kind of toughness. You talk about you got to be a different kind of tough to play offensive line at Vanderbilt. You got to have a different kind of mindset. You're probably not going to the NFL. You're not going to win a lot of games, and you're going up against these beasts from the SEC, banging your head against a brick wall every week. I just like the mindset of somebody that plays at that school. So he's probably going to be bright. I know that's a stereotype, but he's at Vanderbilt. I assume he's a bright kid, and he's going to add some toughness to a position group that absolutely needs it.
This tweet came down on Wednesday afternoon, Corey. I don't think you've seen it, so I want you to guess.
If it's from the Alabama athletic director, I absolutely have seen it. I've already got it on my screen to read it.
I want it to be like, can you guess who said this? All right, so this is from Greg Byrne, athletic director at Alabama, boys and girls. Although we have been competitive, he says, from an NIL standpoint, our competition has us in their sights and are actively trying to surge ahead with NIL. You have heard examples of other teams using promises of $1 million paydays to lure away our players or convince them not to come to Alabama. It is time for the Bama Nation to fight back. Hold on, let me get the violin music playing for you.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry.
Okay, now you can go.
It's disgusting. I really do feel for everyone listening to this that's a big-time – well, not even if you're a big-time booster, just a college football fan that sees what's happening. And right now I'm going to look up Greg Byrne's salary. He makes about $2 million a year, it looks like. But his contract is worth $12 million a year, or $12 million total. So he makes $2.7 million. How about he donates? He says, okay, and I'm going to start this off by donating $500,000. Who will match me? Because it is absolutely disgusting that the people that get the richest off this sport are asking their fans to fund the team that makes them rich. Like, why don't you give back, Greg Byrne? Like, I know Norvell did, and that was laudable. But like, you're asking these fans to not only give money for season tickets, pack the stadium every weekend, even though it gets harder. The tickets keep climbing. The TVs get better and better in their homes. The food costs more, the beer costs more, the parking costs more. Everything goes up and up and up and up and up to fund the football team. And now you're saying, oh, yeah, by the way, we also needed to pay for our players so we can be competitive. Because heaven knows everybody feels bad for Alabama. Alabama's never taken anybody's best player. Where was Jahmyr Gibbs was born and raised in Alabama, right? And was recruited by Saban and played there his whole career, right?
Incorrect.
Oh, no, that's right. He started at Georgia Tech. That's weird.
From Dalton, baby.
Yeah, that's weird. He started at Georgia Tech. Alabama's like, that's something I want. And they went and got him. That's cool, man. That's a cool thing to do. It's unbelievable that these ADs, these administrators have the audacity to beg like that. Like, look, people want to donate, that's fine. I get it. This is the sport right now, hopefully for a very short amount of time. But this is the sport right now. But to have a screed, it's like 500 words.
It is, yeah. That was just excerpt of it. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just stupid. And you're like, oh, everybody feels bad for us because our 5-star cornerback got raided by. It's what Alabama's been doing for a century. Bear Bryant used to hoard players to not even play them, but when they didn't have scholarship limits, just so Auburn couldn't get them. He'd sign them and make them fourth string just so they wouldn't go to Auburn and beat them.
Some might call it strategic. We call it petty back then, and this is borderline pathetic to voice it, as you said, Corey, like in a screed. It's a long, long tweet. But what the only I can think of is the whole, whatever, the cliche quote line, ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. Because, now Alabama's having to deal with what they've kind of wreaked upon the rest of college football. And it's not all that fun when you don't have Nick Saban anymore. Like, just imagine being able to roll into work every day when you know you got Nick Saban as your head football coach and you're an AD. So, sorry, Greg Byrne, that you guys are on hard times, which was just missing the playoff. Unbelievable. All right, that might have felt like an abrupt ending to the show. Kind of is. Some technical issues reared its head during the recording of this, but we weren't going to make this one too much of a long program, but we appreciate you being here. We'll probably talk a lot on Monday. I would imagine by the time that we got done recording this, and by the time that we do a show for you folks for Monday, 3 more portal commits. I'm going to say 3. I'll set the line at 3.5, and I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the over on that. This is not up to date, obviously. Warchant.com is. This is a supplement to your subscription at warchant.com. All the current news, all the brass tacks, all the meat and potatoes. It's all over at warchant.com. We just, we're here to entertain a little bit and inform. But again, all the recruiting news, PRB, Premium Recruiting Board, Michael Langston, Matt Lassere got you covered. Head over there to see how Florida State's faring in the portal, who's coming, who's going. And we'll be back with a show on Monday for you folks. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock. This is a wrap for us this week. He's Corey. I'm Azon. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.